If you enjoy this content, please take a moment to rate and review it. Your feedback will greatly impact our ability to reach more people. Thank you.
Hey man, how's it going?
Going well. Hot here in Nashville.
I'm sorry, I just cannot hear you say that it's hot here in Nashville after spending a week in Phoenix. I just can't hear it. I mean, I've been here, I'm walking around, I'm enjoying myself. I've got long pants on.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, this is not hot.
Yeah. I don't hang out in Phoenix, so yeah.
Yeah, you're smart. You're smarter than me. You're smarter than me. All right, man. Lots of stories to dig into. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's dig in. So we had a bunch of numbers that rolled out this week. The first, we've got retail numbers, and they came in quite soft, 0.6% down. The economists had projected only 0.1%. I don't think there's anything shocking about that. I mean, you know, we go to the grocery store, we go to the gas pump, we go to restaurants. I mean, it's hard. It's hard right now, man.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think the Main Street economy, which leads to what people buy, is difficult right now. I mean, the only bright spot is if you own stocks, they're up, continuously. But that's not the real economy, and it's not surprising. Retail's weak. People aren't spending money.
No. So I think this is probably not great news for the Republicans. In August, right? So close to the midterms, I think you'd want a slightly stronger economic signal than this. So we will see. We will see. Yeah. We're gearing up, buddy. That. Gearing up for the midterm season. Also, we had the CPI come in, and it does come in as expected, but it was not such a big bump that it looks like Warsh is going to move to raise rates. Given how soft the economy is, given how jobs are coming in, given how retail is looking, it seems like he's got a real needle to thread here between trying to manage inflation. And since inflation came in as expected, that seems like, okay, job is okay there. But it seems like he needs to strengthen the economy. So he's probably not in a position to raise rates, and he needs to kind of just hold where he is. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, to me, if you're looking at the two risks, like, is there going to be a lot of inflation or really struggling with loss of jobs? I'm more concerned with the jobs than I am inflation. But I don't see him cutting either. So I think that's right. He's just going to hold.
And then jobless claims rose again last week. So the number of people who filed for unemployment was 209,000 in the week through August 8th. This number continues to rise, and it is moving higher than expected. Some of the previous months have been revised to the negative. And so this idea that, I mean, I'm having conversations all the time, Vic. I literally just was talking to a very, very talented person who worked in finance, is here in Nashville right now, and has been quite shocked at how difficult it is for her to find her next position. And this is just not an uncommon story, right? Hearing it more and more and more. Really talented, well-credentialed, educated, experienced people with really strong references, great resumes, can't get jobs.
Yeah. I mean, we cover it every week. AI is changing so quickly, and there's at least uncertainty in the economic outlook. And so I think on balance, companies are just holding. Let's just wait and see what happens. I'm not sure that AI is destroying jobs, but it's certainly not making it where the people need more and more workers. So we're in this kind of limbo period, I think.
All right, let's quickly move into VC deals. Epicrispr raises $90 million to rewrite treatment of rare muscle disease. It's a Series C, backed by Sanofi Ventures. This is another biotech project. So, biotech is fully back. Large rounds rolling out, and this is another one.
Yeah, and this is in that classification of a rare disease. I don't think there's really a cure right now, and so it's great to see. It's also a lot of money being invested in what is really important if you have this disease, but it's not a huge market. So I think just another, I'm sort of following you that capital is flowing into biotech right now on all fronts, really.
Yeah, for sure. Vaderis lands $152 million for a phase 3 study in another rare disease, a rare blood vessel disorder. Biotech really finds its home in these rare diseases, right? You don't want to try to totally upset an existing workflow and distribution channel for, a highly available disease. So these rare diseases, they get exemptions from the FDA. There's a lot of sort of patient advocacy and support of them, and they can support sort of novel go-to-market commercialization pricing models. And so that's why there's so many biotech assets in this particular space. But again, $152 million Series B, propelling this Swiss biotech's inhibitor through phase 3, and just a lot of capital in the space. You and I don't invest in this space, but it's important to take note that it's definitely capturing a lot of the capital.
Yeah.
And then the third story comes from a former chemistry whiz from Pfizer. I think this is Chartis Therapeutics, but it starts with a K instead of a C. So I'll just say Chartis, $95 million for thyroid eye disease pill. This is a guy who has sold the company to Gilead, and, winners attract capital pretty easily. This is a Series B. It was led by Forge Life Science Partners with Longwood Fund and Alexandria Venture Investments. But there were existing investors, Foresight Capital, Lilly Asia, and Nextech Invest. The goal is to push for this potential pill for thyroid eye disease into clinical trials. So again, more money going into therapies.
Yeah, and this is another case where there's an existing treatment, but it's IV delivered, IV infusion. Certainly, if they can move it into a pill form factor, it's better for the patients, better margins, longer shelf life, easier to distribute. All of those things are much better. Harder to do, but that's the goal.
Exactly. Okay, moving into policy, we have got to start with President Trump's executive order. President Trump signs an order to reduce childhood vaccines and continues to talk about the connection between vaccines and autism. Obviously, this is highly contested, highly controversial, but this is obviously also an important part of RFK Jr.'s posture around vaccines and the need to continue to claw back their use in society. Obviously, it's also happening at the same time that we're having rises of diseases like measles that are going around, and now we have this executive order. It's unclear exactly what the impact is going to be of this executive order. Also, it seems slightly unusual because typically executive orders are reserved to move in a direction where the president already doesn't have authority, but he has HHS, and clearly RFK Jr. is aligned with this strategy. So to me, this feels mostly like marketing, branding, communications, as opposed to a true policy that couldn't have already been implemented through the agency. But what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, no one's surprised that Trump wants fewer vaccines. He's been talking about that. This is his second executive order in that direction. And I agree. I think it's marketing, or it's him trying to push Kennedy and HHS to move more quickly than they are. I don't know that it's possible to move that much more quickly, but this executive order, directs Kennedy to form a task force again, another task force, the next 90 days, come up with recommendations. I feel like we've heard this story, and there's been several task force, but they'll do another one.
A little bit it feels like RFK Jr. had that interview with Dana Bash, and that made the rounds across news circles and social media. And a little bit this feels like Trump kind of backing him up, right? Sort of saying, hey, that guy doesn't stand alone. I'm here with him, and here's an executive order. So this felt like a vote of approval for RFK Jr. And standing behind his guy. Yeah,
I think standing behind, and also we're not slowing down. I mean, even though people are going to be complaining, or the interviews are difficult, they're going full steam ahead in this direction.
All right, this is an interesting story, a new development, and shows that maybe the lobbyists for the hospitals are making some progress. Bipartisan lawmakers are fighting HHS's 340B rebate push. This is from MedCity News. A bipartisan group of 6 senators introduced a bill to reform the 340B drug program, locking in hospitals' use of contract pharmacies and adding new transparency and compliance rules. Legislation would also kill HHS's contested rebate pilot within a year and replace it with the National Data Clearinghouse to catch duplicate discounts. So if we remember this whole saga, HHS has their bill that they, not their bill, their program, I think it's called Noble. And basically it's like a alternative to 340B, definitely not advantageous for the hospitals. The hospital sued. They were denied in the courts. And so it looks like it's now been elevated up to, the legislature, and we have a bipartisan group of senators that are taking this bill in. I think this really underscores just how important 340B is to the ongoing viability of health systems. The fact that this constant drumbeat of a battle, back and forth battle, on Capitol Hill really shows you that this matter, is in some cases a matter of life or death for health systems, right? And particularly for nonprofit ones, particularly for those that are serving the underserved and the growing population of underinsured or uninsured people in the United States. Without these, with all the other hits that are coming in, a lot of these hospitals are simply not going to make it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, two observations. I like this story. I like this movement. I want to support the Congress actually trying to create bipartisan legislation. I think this is a pretty good bill. It's adding a whole bunch more complexity to the 340B system, which I don't love, but the idea that 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats get together and try to create a workable solution is really good. I'd like to see it get some momentum.
Yeah.
And it would be good for health systems. I mean, even getting them a few years reprieve would be good.
Listen, I'm all for addressing, some of the inefficiencies or the very intentional deceleration of innovation that the healthcare industry broadly and certainly the providers have been implementing for decades now. But we have to do it in a way that's not going to totally destroy the system, right? And I mean, I've been looking at the confluence of change, and I just think it's a nightmare scenario that we're walking into right now. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. I would probably be just fine with 340B being held off for at least some number of years while we see what the impact of supplemental payments, right? What the impact of the new work requirements. It's like there's a lot of change that hasn't fully set in yet.
Right.
And adding this 340B, thing on top of it, it just feels like one too many headwinds.
Yeah. I mean, the healthcare industry is a pretty big ship that they're trying to fix, as they're flying along. And there's real people in these systems that need to be cared for. And so I'm in favor of making change, but doing it in a measured kind of step-by-step way, not trying to do everything in 2026, because it seems like a lot, and there's a lot of systems that are going to have trouble changing quickly enough. And so I don't know the details of this, but I like the fact that it's bipartisan and Congress is trying to get this act together to pass something to make it clear.
Yeah. All right. And then bad news. Bad news for you and I, Vic. We run a small business.
Yes.
And the Kaiser Family Foundation has come out and said their analysis says that insurers want to hike small business premiums by 14% next year. How many years in a row now has the insurance hike been about 14%? I
mean, many years. I don't know. It's maybe 6 or 7 years. It's been a long time. And that's probably 4 times the inflation rate, right? So you are not going to increase your revenue at that rate. There's no chance you're going to increase it that rate. So it just can't continue. And so what happens is the employers cut the coverage, but they're not going to be able to keep the same coverages. So they'll increase the deductible. They'll add in co-insurance that unfortunately no one understands. And it means people are going to not have access. End of the day, you're cutting access.
Yeah, it's pretty insane, man. I mean, it's like clearly this is going to flush out a bunch, and I think to some degree we're hearing from insurers, hey, in some cases we'd rather just not have you.
Right.
Like it's too expensive to keep you as a customer. So if you can afford it, you can afford it. And if you can't, I don't know, go do ICRA, go do, whatever. But again, as we have discussed, as the ACA marketplace continues to thin out, ICRA is becoming less and less of a viable alternative, right? So.
Yeah. And the risk pools are just, when you raise prices like this, people that are, maybe they're on infusion therapy that costs $30,000 a year because they have cystic fibrosis or whatever, they have an ongoing chronic disease that they know they have significant expenses, they stay in. No matter what the price is, they're staying in. People that are healthy will not stay in. And so then, not surprisingly, next year, they're going to have to raise premiums again. And so you get in this bad spiral that unfortunately, I think we're already in.
And then cybersecurity. Gosh, so many challenges in our industry, man. This healthcare dive. Experts say that healthcare faces cybersecurity crisis. These are patient safety issues. Cybersecurity attacks are on the rise. They've brought hospitals, clinics, and other providers to the breaking point. The healthcare sector consistently ranks as one of the top hackers' targets. And DEF CON has been happening, which is like the big, white hat hacker conference, and they've been sort of chronicling and talking about this. It's a problem that's worsening. These are not organizations that are, quite frankly, that strong when it comes to InfoSec and IT in general. They are losing the kind of margin that you would need to fend off these challenges, and AI is getting better and better and better and more widely available to empower the criminals at executing these types of attacks. And so we're not hearing a whole lot about it because, as we've talked about in the past, when some of the much, much bigger hacks happened, a lot of these folks just quietly pay and right. deal with the fallout afterwards. But I think if we look at all of the trends as they're playing out, this is going to be yet another significant area of vulnerability for health systems.
Yeah, no question. We just covered that they're going to be under a lot of stress financially. It costs a lot of money to set up all these defensive cybersecurity measures. And one, they don't have the talent to do it. And two, even if they could find the talent, they don't have enough capital, enough operating income to do it. And then three, typically most health systems use a pretty large number of outside IT vendors that they're buying solutions from. You have then that sort of derivative vulnerability where one of them gets hacked and then they ride in through that. So it's a perfect storm of these things. I think it's going to be an issue for several years.
All right. HHS moves to decertify organ procedure group over patient safety failures. So this is in the health system space. The decertification of Network for Hope could disrupt organ donation in Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, and West Virginia. I was actually with the founder of transplant.org, friend of mine. His name is Tristan Mace. He's a venture capitalist and transplant recipient and survivor of many incredible health challenges. Just a great guy. And he's been educating me about all the challenges and inefficiencies and opportunities in the organ donation network world. I certainly don't know much about this case. And so I think we have to, at face value, trust that HHS has found some really troubling matters here in terms of like the way that they've been dealing with these organs, and sort of persistent patient safety failures is a big deal. We need these networks to operate at a very, very high level. These organs are precious, but I can just tell you, based on my conversations with Tristan, that this is a really hard space. It's not well funded, and I think that there are lots of vulnerabilities in it, and decertification is probably the right move, but I worry about, what that means in terms of the accessibility of organs in these different states, right? It's like, it's already really, really difficult. Network for Hope say they strongly disagree with the decision and they plan to appeal. But yeah, just a very unfortunate situation. I hope this gets remedied quickly for all those folks who are waiting for an organ that are in those states where Network for Hope was their primary network they were depending on. But yeah, just uncanny, because I was just talking to Tristan yesterday about all this stuff, and really pretty scary stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that we want to use the organs that are available to help people, get new organs. No question about that. And in this article, HHS concluded that at least 28 times, 28 different people were not totally deceased when they started the process of harvesting the organs. And they can't have that. I mean, that you can't say, I mean, the example that they give is a man overdosed and then was questionable, but seemed to be regaining consciousness and coming back. And yet they still, took the organs for other people. We can't cross that line. I mean, I think we have to, I think we have to trust that HHS is investigating this in an honest way. And if they found that 28 times, we can't do that. That's not appropriate. I mean, we need a lot more organ donors, but it has to be, either voluntary or after the person has actually died. Sort of obviously, but it's shocking that 28 times is, way too many. That's not like one questionable case. That's a whole series. So I agree. Decertifying, and then let's figure out, maybe it's this group reconstituted or a new group. We should have an organ donor affiliate program in these states, but they have to be done properly. It's just not appropriate.
Yeah, agree. All right, moving into pharma. PTC Therapeutics has a $211 million bid that wins the bankruptcy auction of Sangamo gene therapy. Sangamo Therapeutics filed for Chapter 11 in June after their search for strategic alternatives failed to find a path forward for the company. Unfortunately, they were not one of the ones that's been picked this year in all the M&A frenzy that's been happening. But the assets were in fact won in bankruptcy and extend the life of those assets, which is great. That's a great outcome, for advancing the science and the technology.
Yeah. And this is how the bankruptcy process should work, right? It didn't, the science didn't come out quickly enough, or the trials weren't right, or they spent too much money to get there. They go into bankruptcy protection, but then out of that, they're able to sell the asset to another party with stronger balance sheet that can carry forward, which is what works out best. Not necessarily for the equity investors, but at least we can take the IP and utilize it in another place.
Yeah, certainly sorry for the equity investors on that one.
Yeah.
Braveheart Bio's $382 million IPO for heart drug leads to a big week for biotech IPOs. More good news for the biotech space. This lead drug could be competitive with blockbuster Bristol Myers Squibb medicine for a type of cardiomyopathy. Another IPO. Looks like it landed well, was priced well. Vic, are we in the wrong space?
Yes. I mean, right now, biotech is the darling. And I care a lot about heart disease, and every week there's 3 or 4 new technologies coming out. And then this one just went public this week. It's an exciting time. Lots of science going on. I mean, it's one of the places where you can deploy risk capital, and there's a pathway to see an exit, which I think it sort of all feeds together, as you know. I mean, if you see an IPO, then VCs are going to now be more excited about investing in those up and coming biotech deals.
Indeed. All right, health and us, and also our transition into our technology segment. The data maxers feeding their every health move to AI. This is Wall Street Journal. From marathon training to tracking office angst, health obsessives are linking their data to chatbots to build hyper-personalized coaches. I've been on an interesting journey personally. I feel that when I was competing athletically in jiu-jitsu, I was definitely much more focused on tracking and capturing data. And I thought it was going to be an obvious next move for me as AI rolled out to say, of course, why don't I pass all these signals into these artificial intelligence applications and see how it can, give me more insights. I did do it a little bit, but I have had real concerns over data sovereignty. I've found myself actually, I think for a combination of reasons, one being it's been more of a busy work season than it has been a competitive athletic season for me. But I think also because of my growing concerns about data sovereignty in the AI space, I've been withholding what I am sharing with AI, unless it is on a locally hosted model or, maybe it's on a model on something like Venice, right? Where I have some belief that the communication is going to be, private and anonymous. I have not been putting my health data into Claude, Gemini, OpenAI. What about you? Are you feeding your data into those systems?
No, same. I have not. I do a ton of AI work, and I'm also interested in my own biometrics and tracking my stuff, but I will not put it into any of the frontier models or anywhere I don't have control over it. I'm on Venice as well, and I've had a couple questions I've asked Venice, but I don't know. I feel like your personal health record, your genomics, all your microbiome, all that information is super valuable, and I plan to use it, but I think I at least want to keep it where I own it, I control it. Maybe I'll have a partner that I let use it for a minute, but just giving it to Anthropic in order to get a quick answer that's not actionable. I'm not going to really do that much with this information. There's no actionable step. It just seems like feeding them data for no real benefit. And I think I've learned from social media, if you're not paying for it, maybe you pay $20 for OpenAI or Anthropic or something, but if you're not paying a lot, you are the product. They're going to then monetize you some other way.
Yeah, and fun too. We've got a company called Thrive AI Health, which is a health coach application. They are partnering directly with healthcare organizations, right? And that to me feels more appropriate. You know what I mean? Like it's taken with the seriousness of what we're dealing with, which is our data. Now, don't get me wrong. I want data sovereignty, meaning I want to own my data, but I would be far more comfortable either putting it into a self-hosted model to get feedback or, into some type of health coaching application that was provided by my health system, for example, right? You know what I mean? Or my PCP. Like that to me feels more in the scope of how I'm trying to manage this, my data. And look, I think things like 23andMe, have scarred me on this front, right? Yeah. Just sort of realizing that just as our social security numbers and all these other sorts of things are just out there at this point, I'm not that excited about my genome just being out there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And 23andMe is a good example. They were pretty good actors until they ran out of money, and then they had to sell, and so you're totally at the whim of they're out of business, they're going through bankruptcy, and who's going to buy it? And so even though at the time it made sense, you never know what's going to happen to these companies. Over
agree. Okay, moving into Web3. I thought this was a very, very, very big story. Tether, which is the global juggernaut of stablecoins. USDT, far predating Circle's USDC, but also kind of not the most US friendly stablecoin, and also a stablecoin that people for a long time have questioned the balance sheet of, right? They've questioned whether or not they really have the assets underneath the stable coins in a one-for-one manner. There's been a lot of talk about it not all being treasuries, that they've got some gold in there, they've got some Bitcoin in there, and it's a pretty, maybe relatively esoteric balance sheet compared to, say, a Circle, right? Where it truly is sort of treasuries underlying their stable coins. So with all that said, I think it's a really big deal. The KPMG issued a clean opinion in Tether's first full audit of their financials, right? I mean, this is a real huge step in them moving in the direction of trust. Here in the US specifically, right? Trust that those USDT coins that you have, are the bottom's not going to drop out of them, right? They actually are, a tokenized representation of a dollar that you can count on to be a dollar in the future. So huge congratulations to them. I had no idea this was even underway. But this is a big deal.
And I think it's really, because we are now opening up to crypto Web3 assets, specifically stablecoins. Tether wants to get access to the U.S. market. And so they need to go through this kind of audit with KPMG. That was my only question, like who did the audit? And KPMG is, one of the big four. They're clearly, And, in year one of Tether, which was probably, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, they grew incredibly quickly. I know because I had personally funded a stablecoin here in Nashville that was maybe more elegant, but much slower to get to market. And so there were a lot of questions about how quickly they were growing and could they possibly have, everything properly reserved. But at this point, they're a huge operation. I mean, multi-billion dollars in annual income just from the float off the earnings. And so I think they have plenty of capacity now to be fully reserved. But I agree with you completely. Having KPMG give them a clean audit is very different than me saying they got a bunch of money, it's probably okay. It's, much higher validation. So great.
Absolutely.
And I think it's healthy that Circle has a competitor. I mean, we need competition just to have it. It'll keep them both honest.
Well, look, Tether's a hell of a competitor. I mean, that thing is as close to a money printing machine as one could possibly hope to operate. So that's a really, really big competitor. And if they, if this audit is any indication of what they are looking to do moving into the United States, seriously, with their market share globally, with their balance sheet, they're big. They're going to be a very formidable competitor for sure. So
yeah, and I mean, Circle has plenty of resources too. So I think it'll be good for me as a user to have them both in the U.S., both competing for my stablecoin, my $100 in stablecoin.
Yep. Okay. And also here from CoinDesk, the SEC has canceled their long-awaited proposal of Reg Crypto, postponing the meeting, importantly, without a new date. This is the continuing saga around the Clarity Act. The SEC and the CFTC have been messaging that A, we need the Clarity Act, but B, if you do not bring the Clarity Act into reality, then we're going to have to create these regulations at the agency level. And not necessarily what we want to do, but clearly they're incentivized to do this because this is what the crypto lobby wants from them and expects from the Republican Party. They expect them to deliver not just genius, but also clarity. I think that there's been a real hang up around the allowance of yield on stablecoins that is embedded inside of Clarity. When most of us think about Clarity, we're thinking about the market structure component of it, right? Which is the ability to offer securities via tokens and then take those tokens across the blockchain and move with them from there. But that's not the only thing that's inside of Clarity. There are other things in there. And I think the bank lobby is really driving a lot of opposition around that stablecoin yield issue. So who knows what's going on here? Maybe them pulling back is a signal that somebody's whipping up enough votes to move Clarity forward. Maybe that's what this actually means. But we continue to have a lack of clarity around whether or not this bill is going to make it through.
I agree with you. There's something going on behind the scenes. I don't really know what it is. And I'm hopeful that we get some clarity around the Clarity Act or with SEC or CFCC. But I'm not confident that they're going to get something passed before the midterms. And so we're looking at next year. Now, maybe I could be wrong about that, but it just seems like a lot to do we're already in sort of the campaign time where they're not that focused on it. So I don't know, disappointing, but we'll see what comes of it.
We've got 4 AI stories to wrap up. The first one comes from The Verge. It's chronicling the shakeup that has happened at DeepMind. And the headline is, does Google even want to win at AI? And I actually think that this is the right question, right? So we have had Jeff Dean, who was DeepMind's chief scientist, leave to form his own startup. The CEO of DeepMind, Denis Hassabis, is stepping aside to focus on "quote unquote" longer term research, and several other key staffers at Google that were heading up their AI efforts have left. The truth is, it really doesn't matter what other things you have going on in the AI world. Talent is king, and when you have an exodus of people at this caliber leaving, it says something. And certainly, when we talk about Google, we're not talking about an organization that does not have the infrastructure, the balance sheet, the capabilities, the data to win at AI. What people are rumbling about is whether or not Google has the culture or the will to win at AI. It sounds like Sergey Brin has now stepped in to deal with this vacuum of power. And, whenever Larry or Sergey have stepped in the past, they've actually been quite effective at righting the ship. Google is fortunate to have these founders that can kind of swoop in whenever there is a bunch of melee and put things back into founder mode. And so I certainly am not writing them off. I also think, and I continue to just sort of point to, okay, we're talking about these model companies and their financials look all crazy. And every day I'm out in the streets here in Nashville and there's Waymos on the street, right? So to me, it's like I don't really know what we mean when we say, does Google even want to win at AI when they are the company with the most autonomous vehicles on the street? You know what I mean? That to me just seems sort of insane that we continue to look at these benchmarks around these models alone. But Vic, you're studying all this. What's your view on it?
Yeah, I think we're pretty aligned. I mean, I think Google has a lot of assets in AI and outside of AI, as you said. At least my opinion, and so I'm biased because it's my opinion that I'm now projecting on Google leadership, but I'm not sure you have to have the leading frontier model to win at AI. I mean, they are winning in the cloud. They're winning in the, sort of the usage with all their applications. They have their own chips, and they have a very good AI. And then they also allow you to use whatever model you want to bring on their systems. I don't know. I think that they might be sort of playing a different strategy than OpenAI and Anthropic, who don't have those other assets. I'm not sure that equates to they don't want to win at AI. They're just playing a slightly different strategy out because they have a different set of assets.
Yeah, no, look, I agree. I think that Google is playing in a much more integrated game, and they have many more places where they can apply AI. They're not just this model harness company. I wish they were better at it. I certainly wish Gemini had a better harness because we already pay for Google Workspace, right? It's like,
yeah.
If Google took this whole harness aspect of AI more seriously, we wouldn't even need Claude.
That's right.
Because our business lives on Google Workspace.
Right.
But they don't. They don't take it that seriously. I think it's an interesting question. This whole, do they even want to win at AI? It's like when we say, do they want to win at AI? We're really talking about the harness business model, I think,
I mean, I think that, I think that's right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the recursive self-improvement is the one sort of place where I think you could make an argument that if Anthropic or OpenAI start to get, even somewhat of a lead, and then they use that best model to teach itself more quickly, where they can really get ahead and be pretty dominant, where it would be really damaging to Google's market cap. At the end of the day, that's what they're focused on. It seems to me like it's evolving now where there's at least 2 leaders, and then there's a group of maybe 10 other, if you go to China and Grok and Google and, there's a couple of choices in Europe that are, are hanging around that we probably won't have a runaway, single winner to lead all. But that's their vulnerability, I think. If that happens, it could be damaging.
Yep, agree. All right. OpenAI shed senior execs in pre-IPO refresh. So there's lots of things moving around in teams right now. OpenAI's chief revenue officer, Denise Dresser, is leaving the company less than a year into the role. Her exit comes at the same time as Brad Lightcap, who was the former CEO, has announced his departure. Just lots of moves happening around these labs. And I think the competitiveness, the amount of capital that's being thrown in, and sort of the winner take all sense around this race. Can you imagine how hard it must be to make forward progress and retain talent right now?
Yeah. I mean, it is the ultimate sort of competitive game, right? You have 2 really well-capitalized, incredibly talented teams in OpenAI and Anthropic, both pushing to get to an IPO in the next 6 months. I think Anthropic's probably marginally ahead in that process. And unlike Google, they don't really have alternatives, right? This is the one thing that they're going to do. Yeah, she was Denise, who was the head of sales. She was there 10 months. I mean, that's the competitive landscape, right? She gets there, it takes her 2 months to figure out, what the heck she's selling. And then 8 months later, she's gone. I think that's just the environment that we're in.
It's insane. It's insane. And I mean, look, that churn is also inefficiency, right? So you think about like all the capital that's being absorbed in this space, some percentage of that capital is going to the inefficiency of being able to retain a team.
Yeah.
Right. The constant spinning up and shutting down of these different groups of people working on, different aspects of these businesses. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. And you know what? I bet you that is internally really driving these labs to want to get to recursive self-improvement. Right. Because I bet they're just like, screw these people. We got to get to where the AI is smarter than the people. So we can stop dealing with these people,
Right.
And their need for prestige and money. Decrypt, Google and OpenAI debut super fast AI models. Gemini 3.7 Flash is out, but GPT 5.6 Soul ultra fast is invite only. I was listening to the Limitless podcast, and I really liked one thing they said, Vic, and I wanted to bring it up on this show, which is we talk about the frontier, right? But obviously, DeepSeek has had a monster couple of weeks here, and it's like we're at the point now where when we say frontier, what do we really mean? Because there are now different frontiers, right?
Yeah.
There's the frontier of, we'll just call it general intelligence, right? And nobody's quite there yet, but that is pretty much what Anthropic and OpenAI are duking it out for, right? They're
forget cost or speed, just what purely intelligence. Who has the best, most smartest model?
100%, right? But there is also like a frontier of size. It's like Meta and the Muse Glimmer. They're not going for the most intelligent model. They're going for the model you can run on your laptop, right? There's the frontier of speed. And it does seem that, in fact, like Google is very interested in speed, right? Which makes sense because, Google has always been about trying to push more and more things to the browser, right? They've always optimized for speed. And so it makes sense, there's going to be the frontier of specificity, right? There's going to be small models that are not generally very intelligent, but are trained or maybe even tuned to focus on specific domains and maybe even down to specific tasks, right? So the frontier, when we say this, the frontier, it's like, that's an evolving concept.
Yeah, and it's jagged, right? Like there's some places, say software, where many models are far better than a human. Then there's other places, intuition or like understanding what someone means when they talk about an experience they had, is harder for the LLMs to understand. And then you get to the whole world model where they're trying to understand like the spatial three-dimensional things. So it's not, I don't think it's a one size fits all. There's, like you're saying, there's different use cases and different models have different flavors or different specialties. The one other axis that I might throw out there is like the value axis, where there's like a combination of quality, but also cost per task, which isn't exactly the same as cost per token. Some of the Chinese models are very inexpensive, but they use 2 times, 3 times as many tokens to do the same thing. So you have to sort of balance all of these things. We already have moved to, kind of routing the different jobs to different models. And I think that's really going to be the late 26, 27 thing in my mind. You have a harness and then you're routing to a whole bunch of different models to get the combination that you need for this situation and this one task I'm trying to do with today. But tomorrow I might need a different model. The other thing I think is just interesting is that the invite only thing, I think we're going to see more and more of that for sort of 2 reasons. One, I think that it's becoming harder from a regulatory point of view to release models that are unconstrained. And then secondly, I think that it's just true that there's a commoditization in the price per token. And so I think they're going to start gating some of the best value or the most extreme intelligence models, either for their own use and let's spin up a hedge fund because we have the best model in the world and we're not going to give it to anyone. We're just going to use it internally, or an invite only where they are, giving access to a group that maybe they're paying a premium or they're giving them some data in a trade. I think OpenAI and Anthropic particularly, they have to consider all these options. There's no rule that they must release every model they come up with. And there might be other ways to make revenue that are more strategically valuable than selling tokens.
Yes. Very much agree. Great points on both cost / value, and also the need to, gate who can access these models for sure for distillation reasons. But I think the regulatory argument is also important. So, okay. Final story. Grok Bot was announced on August 11th. And, this is one of those things where we started with OpenClaw. I feel like the next big thing was Hermes, then Perplexity Computer, then most recently Buzz, and now we have Grok Bot, a team of always-on agents. It's getting to the point where you just really can't count any of these organizations out, especially if they've got meaningful resources and they've got some type of distribution and data capability. And that's, for me, that's specifically talking about like Meta and x.ai. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like these guys have, because of their distribution, they've got so many different ways they can go about this. They can repackage AI and put another meaningful shot on goal. Look, they're not going to beat OpenAI or Anthropic at the quote unquote frontier of pure intelligence. We know that now. But the application of intelligence in ways that is actually meaningful and helpful for their audiences, I think they actually can be, quite effective in those areas. Have you used Grok Bot yet?
No, but I agree completely. So, you're right. It came out on Tuesday. I'm planning to download it this weekend and try it. What I'm excited about is it is very similar to Manus. So I don't know. I mean, if you recall, but Manus was one of the first agents that was really easy, usable, and it was in the cloud. The big knock on it was a Chinese company. I guess it is a Chinese company, like a bought by Meta, but then I'm not sure they ever were able to actually get it. And this, I mean, just from the demos I've seen, it's very similar to that. It's meant for a non-developer, right? So you basically, it's in the cloud. There's no installation on your hard drive. I mean, you download the app, but that's it. And then it does everything kind of behind the scenes, which is what I liked about Manus. You could just tell it, I need this task done, and I don't really care what model you use or how you go about it. Just, let me know when you're finished.
Right.
They have taken that same kind of experience for the general population. I mean, you and I are playing with all these tools, but most people, they want to be able to pull out their phone and ask for something, like I'm going to lunch. Can you do a competitive analysis on these 4 companies? Because I'm invested in one of them, but I want to compare these other 3. And then I go to lunch and I come back and it's done. And with OpenAI and Claude and Gemini, you still have to sort of be sitting there with it and saying yes to permissions and okay, yes, let's take that next step. And I haven't tried Grok Bot, but I think their use case is much more like we will take all this complexity, all the technology stuff away. And if you don't like the results, then tell us what part you don't like, and then we'll learn from that and iterate. But you don't need to know, I don't think you can pick the model. It's using Grok. They're using whatever model they want. And if you're not happy with the results, then you shouldn't use it. But I think a lot of people will like that kind of easy button of just give me the answer, just give me the output, and I need that.
I think that's right, and I think that's a clear differentiation between all of the previous models that I talked about. Whether it's OpenClaw, Hermes, Perplexity, Computer, or Buzz. In those, you are selecting, you're selecting the model. You're even selecting the endpoint. In this one, it's just all packaged up, and I think it's interesting that as Manus has been removed from Meta's platform, and therefore now back in Chinese hands, and I think going to be a much harder company to commercialize in the United States. It's interesting that here comes Grok Bot to replace it.
Yeah, and I think it's a signal that we might be moving past the early adopter tech tinkerer phase of AI and getting to where there's a lot of people that they want to use AI, but they don't want to learn all this other stuff. They don't want to open up terminal. And the stuff that I love about Claude Code, it makes my wife's head hurt. She doesn't want to do that. She just wants to have an easy thing that answers stuff for her. And that's a much bigger market. If Grok Bot can do it at high quality, that's the big question.
Yes, it is a much bigger market. It is also, so this is a really interesting thing, Vic, right? So in other spaces where we move from the geeky, I want to tinker, I want to control everything, to just give me the, so let's just take the difference. It's not a perfect analogy, but let's just take the difference between Linux and Mac OS, right?
Yeah.
They both run on this sort of Unix based operating system, but one is just an absolutely terrible user experience, right? And the other one is pretty powerful, right? The other one is pretty powerful. One of the things I've been really disappointed in is the lack of alternative harnesses out there, right? So I keep wanting to move away from Claude or OpenAI to one of these other models, but these harnesses are just not up to snuff, right? They're simply not up to snuff.
And it's like spinning up a Linux server. I mean, it's hard.
It's really, really difficult, right? And I think the question I have is, what's the trade-off gonna ultimately be when we're not dealing with ease of use only in terms of user experience, user interface, right? But we're talking about not only even quality of performance of these models, but also what these models are trained to return to you, right? So what gives me pause about this is that it's Grok. You know what I mean? And for better or worse, I know what Elon Musk's personality is. You know what I mean? And so
so far he has imbued that personality into Grok. I mean, it has a personality that I mean, it's like being on an X or like hanging out with an Elon, I don't know, clone or a different kind of entity that's sort of like Elon.
Yeah. So it's like, do I want to trade complexity for simplicity, and in that trade take on, always in the back of my head knowing that this thing is spitting out what Elon wants it to spit out.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the challenge.
That's a concern. That's certainly a concern. I think that this like crossover to ease of use mass market does not work without a killer app. Like so I just don't see like until that like people don't have enough things of value to give Grok Bot now because we haven't figured out what is the thing that will save me $5,000 a year or 5 hours a week that Grok Bot can do.
Yep.
And that might get invented over the next couple of months, in which case Grok Bot will take off if there is a killer app. But right now, it's just kind of, you can do all the same stuff you could do with other things, but it's just easier. And I think that the mass market needs to have like an easy button. And I don't know what that is, but the iPhone, I mean, Mac OS was always good, but then really the iPhone was the killer thing that just accelerated everything.
Yeah, I agree. And look, of the companies out there, if we're talking on the consumer side, X is a decent product company. You may not like the political, film that the product flows through, but they're a good product company. I mean, they just rolled out X Money, and I signed up just to like experience it, just to see what it was like. I don't know if you know
what that is. Okay.
Well, do you have X Premium?
Yeah.
Okay, so you should see whether or not you got an invite to X Money.
Okay.
I did. I signed up. They give you $25.
Yeah. I mean, sign up for that.
Yeah, exactly. For the early folks.
Right.
So you should check your app. You should check your X app and see if you've got early access to it. But anyway, look, our job is to just continue to track all the things. So let me know next week when we record, what your thoughts are on Grok Bot. Oh, hold on. Next week.
Next week you're out.
Yeah. Do you have a guest host?
Yeah, I have a guest. Paul Kappelman, who's done it previously, is going to do it. So that'll be great. Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll hear what's going on the private equity side of things and just catch up with Paul. So it'll be good.
Love it. It's been a while since we've had Paul on, so I'm looking forward to listening to that episode. All right, man. Look, have a great weekend.
Okay. Bye.